everyone, Lisel Crowley here at the Cool Tools Studio. Today I'm going to show you a great project for men. It's a man's ring with a landscape motif on the front. We're going to use quite a few tools for this project, and we're also going to use the EZ960 sterling silver clay. The reason I like to use this clay for rings is it has incredible finish strength. I also love the fact that it can be fired open shelf. So what do we need for this project? We need vinyl textures, templates, bezel cup and stone, rolling pin, ring sizer pellets, thickness frames, coil roller, clay pick, tweezers, stone setting punch, multi-mandrel and the mandrel of the size that you're going to work in, cool slip, sanding materials, and of course, EZ960 sterling silver clay and a clay hydrator. Let's get started. So the first step when you're making any ring is to figure out how to size it based on the shrinkage of your clay. And I have found a clay that shrinks 10 to 12%, like the EZ960 sterling. Usually you have a two size difference. So if I want to make a size 11 ring, I'm going to work on a size 13 mandrel. And so what I'm using here is the multi-mandrel, which comes in either half sizes or whole sizes. This is the whole size set, and you can see the different size attachments for it. And it just slips off, and this is how you can change it. And it's already set up with the size 13 mandrel, and I've got some wax paper wrapped around it. It's just taped on. And this is where I'm going to build my ring band. I'm also going to use these wonderful sizing pellets when I fire the piece, and for this I'll use the size 11. And this is going to go inside the ring, so as the clay is shrinking, this will keep it nice and round and keep it to the perfect size 11. But before I do the band, I'm going to actually make the top focal part of the ring. Okay, so what we're going to do is create a focal for the ring, and this is going to be a man's ring, and I want to make it kind of landscapey, and we're going to embed a little 4mm bezel cup into the top of the ring, and after the piece is fired, we're going to put a little fire opal in there. So it will look kind of like a sun in the landscape. And I'm going to show you a neat trick with these vinyl textures. These are the vinyl textures that Cool Tools sells. And they come in a variety of textures, but I'm going to use these two. And what I've done is I've cut them out in kind of wavy, undulating lines. And you can be very, free form with that. So to create this little hole for the bezel cup, I'm using the metal clay stone setter. And I've got the punch that's the right size for this bezel cup. And you basically just put it over a steel block and you hit it with a hammer and it'll give you a nice perfect circle. So the way that this works, and you do want to lubricate these because just like any texture, it has to be lubricated so the clay will not stick. So let me get this nicely lubricated. And first I'm going to roll my clay out fairly thick. I'm going to roll it out 8 cards thick. I'm just going to fold that in half and roll it again because I want the surface to be relatively smooth. And now I'm going to lay my textures down with a little gap in between them. And I definitely want to capture that circle. So I want to definitely roll over that. And for this, I'm going to roll 4 cards thick. And you can see I have this sort of landscape looking motif here with the sun area. So I'm going to place this on a tough card. I'm going to do this upside down so you can see it right side up. And I've got this little shape I've decided to use. And you can sort of audition it. You can move it around and find the place where you like it the best. I think I like it right there. And I'm going to come in with my Ultra Clay pick and trim that out. Pull away the excess clay. Not too worried about the messy edges because I can clean that up with sanding. And the final step is to come back in with the stone setter and punch this little hole out for the bezel cup. Always remember when you use these punches to reclaim the clay from them before it dries out, because once it dries out, not only is the clay, dry and you have to reconstitute it, but also it can get clogged up in there, and you don't want your punches to be clogged up. And the final step is to just push that bezel cup down into the surface. Okay, so this will get dried and sanded, and then we'll make the ring band on the mandrel and attach this to the ring band. So now I'm going to create the band for my ring, and I'm going to use this great ring shank template that Cool Tools makes, and I'm going to roll the clay out 4 cards thick. And I'm actually going to start with a coil because I just want a long, narrow strip. And I have way more clay than I need, but I'd rather have more than I need than not have enough and have to redo. Okay. And now I'm just going to take my template, get it lined up, and I'm using my Ultra Clay pick to cut it out, and cut my ring shank out. And what I like to do whenever I'm doing anything that involves bending the clay is I like to get it nice and moist. The more moist the surface of the clay is when you go to bend it, the less likely you are to get surface cracks. So now I'm going to get my already prepared mandrel, pick up my ring shank, and the easiest way to create the band is to just overlap it, which is what I'm going to do here. You can also trim it down and give it a butt connection, which is a little bit more fussy, but with this particular technique, you just lay it over the top, you blend it in, and then you can sand it smooth. And to blend it, I'm going to use one of these clay shapers. They come in a variety of shapes and sizes. I'm actually going to select this one. And first I'm going to use my brush to kind of brush that down and really moisten it. And then I'm going to take my clay shaper, and I like to roll it. I'm kind of doing it upside down so the camera can see what I'm doing, but I'm going to have to turn it in a minute just to make sure it's looking right. And you see how I've smoothed that over, and it's kind of lumpy right here, but I can fix that later with sanding. I can also come in and just trim away some of this excess with my clay pick. And it just saves a little bit of sanding later on. I can totally refine the shape with sanding. I don't have to worry about it being perfect at this stage. And then that's ready to go in the dehydrator. And once it's dry, I'll sand it smooth, and then we'll attach the motif. Okay, so I have dried both the top part of the ring and the ring shank, and I've sanded the shank smooth, and I've also sanded around the edges of the top motif. The next step is to attach this to the ring shank. And what I'm going to do is moisten the ring shank and also the back of the top. I'm gonna, whenever I attach things, I like to sort of wiggle slightly until it catches, and that tells me that it's starting to bond. And I want to try to get this to sort of conform to the curve of the ring. So I'm just going to very gently, I don't want to press too hard because I don't want to create surface cracks, but very gently press that down. And I'll hold for a second. It's a little, taking a minute for it to dry, enough for it to sit still. So I'm just going to hold it for a second. Okay, so I attached the ring, I wet it to curve it to conform to the shape of the ring, and then I dried it. And now I just want to kind of taper the edges so it blends in. I'm not going to try and get it to be completely smooth, but I just want to have it a slight taper. So I'm just going to take a sanding pad and very lightly sand in one direction like that to smooth it down. Okay, so what I've done now is I've sanded it smooth on these edges, and now I've pulled the bezel cup out because I want to actually take my punch and now punch through the ring shank itself. And I'll pull that out. And then I'll take my bezel cup and set it back in there if I don't throw it all over the place. And as I push that down, it's going to sink and be almost completely flush with the top, which I think is going to be a better look for the ring. Now the ring is ready to fire. After firing, we'll do all our finishing. We'll brush it, we'll tumble it, we'll patina it, and then the final step would be to add the little fire opal in there. So the final step before firing is to take one of these ring pellets, and this again is the size 11. I made the ring a size 13 to account for shrinkage, but what I wanted to end up is an 11. So I'm going to put that in there, and I'll set it in the kiln like this, and it will fire and come out a perfect size 11. And here we have the finished ring. It's been fired, it's been polished, it's been patinaed, and I set the stone into the bezel. It's beautifully strong and ready to wear. Any man would be proud to wear this ring.
Visit our Learning Center at cooltools.us for more cool jewelry making videos. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and be sure to sign up for our email list to be the first to hear about new videos, new products, and other cool stuff from Cool Tools.